Hello my beautiful fragrance family, Dustin here, fragrance fan. Go ahead and do me a solid, click that like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell notification, and I'm just going to keep on giving you guys these budget-friendly fragrances. Use that $40-ish, $100 range. Most of these are way less than that, and a good number of these you can find at your local rag stores, including all of these that I have for you today. As you see, I got the 5 Milestone Tom Ford private line collection clones here, except for one of them is not a private line, but we'll get into that in a second. And if I'm not mistaken, that is all of them. Excuse me. If there are more than 5 of these little magical beauties, please let me know in the comments that I am missing out on some of this goodness, and I'll be on the hunt for it. I'll be on the hunt for it regardless. So let me just go ahead and kickstart things off with my first one that I found, the Tuscany Leather clone, $14.99 at my local TJ Maxx. And when I first saw this thing, I said to myself, wow, that must be a Tom Ford Tuscan Leather clone. Took the lid off, caught a beautiful view of that awesome atomizer, and said, wow, that's a Tuscan Leather clone. But when I first got it, I don't know what's going on there, it was a bit harsh. It was more harsh. The leather was aggressive, the spices were aggressive, but after this thing has sat on my shelf for a couple months now, 2 or 3 months, maybe more, it has really ironed itself out. It's much smoother. The saffron is smoother, almost creamier in a sense. The leather is way more ironed out and even a bit more believable. The raspberry even sweetened up a little bit to give this thing a little bit more life, a little bit more playfulness. And the amber is there. I can't really say anything about special about the amber, but you do detect the amber that's in this thing. Really well done, quite accurate to the original Tuscan Leather. About 3 hours of 2.5 hours anyhow of good projection, about a 3.5 hour scent bubble. Overall performance is 6 to 6.5 hours, a little bit above average. So it's a solid fragrance, cool weather, will work in the evening, good for the business, stuff like that. It's not so much of a casual fragrance, but this is a good, like I said, business, evening, cooler weather type scent profile. Next up, amber leather. So I have said, oh, by the way, $16.99 from TJ Maxx. I have said in one of my previous videos that I think that this might be a Dolce & Gabbana clone. I can't think of the name of the thing. I'll put the picture of it right there. But because the notes look very similar to this. I haven't smelled that one, but what I have smelled is the ombre leather. This is not a clone, I don't think, of the private line ombre leather 16, because that's got violet and stuff like that in it, and this doesn't really have that going on in it. What I can say is this is at least 90% similar to the original ombre leather in the round bottle. This smells 90% like that. Difference being, I think that one might be a touch sweeter than this one. I think this one might be slightly heavier on like the jasmine note. Cardamom's about equal, leather's about equal. This isn't quite as, that one's a little bit moist, more moist of a leather if memory serves me correctly, and the jasmine's a little bit more reeled back, and the oak moss, the earthiness from the oak moss, and this starts to poke its head out a little bit more in the dry down. Performance on this one, you'll get a good 3 hours, 2.5 hours of nice projection, 3 to 3.5 hour of a good scent bubble, maybe 4 hours. And the overall longevity is a solid 6 to 7 hours, good performing, dark, cool weather, nighttime, not casual, even business, kind of a fragrance, real close to the original. Quality is there. It's not as good, obviously, as a $200 fragrance. The opening is going to be a little bit more synthetic, of course, than Tom Ford's. Tom Ford's got more sparkle to it and stuff like that. But if you really want to smell quite close to luxury for $17, then check this one out, because it does the job quite well. Next up, probably the most strange smelling one to me is the King Fabulous, the effing Fabulous clone. This one, they all have the same atomizer, so there's no need to keep spraying these things. It has that real strong, I mean, the original one is strange smelling. A lot of people don't like it because it's so weird smelling. This one I think is a little heavier on the almond, and like I said in another review, it's kind of like you get that white meat of the almond and you grind it up into a powdery, like a powdery paste, and you'll get that with the orris and the creamy vanilla, like creamy, waxy orris, iris thing going on with creamy vanilla and the creamy, weird almond. You get a lot of that in here. A little bit sweet, very dense, clay, waxy kind of a fragrance. So it's a strange one. It's weird, but I like it. It's close to the original. The original doesn't have nearly the same opening as this. When you first spray this, it's gonna hit you with like that aggressive leather, kind of like Tuscany Leather does when you first buy it. It's gonna hit you like that, and then it starts to reel back pretty quickly, and the leather is real smooth and stuff like that. But man, that almond is just, that almond and the orris is just there through the whole life of this thing. It's like they just, I don't know, they did whatever with this thing. Maybe that's why it's called what it is. Did you know that there's an F-Boy, a fragrance called F-Boy, and one of the notes in that thing, the top note I think, is cocaine? How strange is that? That's a really weird note to be listed because that stuff smells weird. Smells like a crushed up stink bug if you ask me. Don't ask how I know that. Watch one of my videos, got my story in it, so it might answer some questions. The $100 Versatile Collection. Watch to the end of that. That'll explain some. Next up, Oud Woody. Now this one here has an atomizer lid that does not cooperate whatsoever. But I want to spray it. This one, the name Oud Woody could almost be a little bit misleading. Is it woody? Absolutely. Does it have oud? Absolutely. But it's not a challenging oud whatsoever. This is a real smooth, sweet, rich oud versus being that animalic kind. Also, along with your typical notes of this private line collection, cardamoms or amber and stuff like that, what you get, what really makes this thing captivating, what drew me in, the thing that makes me want to smell it more and more, what I think kind of makes it almost appropriate to a date night fragrance, what makes this a little bit more crowd pleasing, the most crowd pleasing of this line, when you smell this thing and you get a dose of that beautiful, uplifting, bright, sparkly, borderline citrusy Sichuan pepper, giving all that stuff a touch of freshness, really captivates me. This one does it for me. This one is my favorite one in the whole line. This one was $16.99, and this is the only one that I haven't smelled of the original Tom Ford. So I can't compare it to that, but I can say as a standalone fragrance, this thing is incredible. I love the way that they use that Sichuan pepper along with the woody oud and cardamom, the vanilla that's in here. This is slightly sweet, slightly woody, spicy, smooth. It's not so creamy, but it does have a bit of creaminess to it. This one, to me, is the one to look out for, man. This one does it for me. Unfortunately, it's the lowest performing out of all of them. Why does that seem to be? The best smelling ones don't perform the best. It's what it is. But it's not too bad. I'll still get an hour and a half of good projection. I'll get a good 3-hour scent bubble, and I'll get 5 hours of longevity. 5.5 anyhow. So like just marginally better than average. So it's not too bad. And for $16.99, man, just reapply this thing. It's awesome. It is the most crowd pleasing to me and easiest to wear to me. The first three are by far the most mature. This one is a little bit easier to wear, so college, probably enjoy the way that this thing smells. Excellent smelling fragrance. I love the citrusy Sichuan of this thing. That's the nuance that the way they use that note is it has this, sometimes it has a citrusy vibe, pepper, even like black pepper can, and this one, it definitely sticks out a bit. Next up is the most expensive for whatever reason from Marshall's, was $19.99, is the Red Cherry, the Lost Cherry clone. So the difference between this one and the original, Lost Cherry by Tom Ford, is that one has, of course, much more believable cherry notes, and the dark cherry is a bit more prominent and believable. This one is like red cherry, and the cherry liqueur is what you really get the most in this. That's what's most dominant. Like the cherry jar, you take it out and put it in your cherry Coke or whatever. That kind of a cherry is what's strong in this, and the cinnamon is quite loud. It doesn't smell like a cinnamon stick, but you get that cinnamon spice. The spice that comes from the cinnamon is what you get with this, with that cherry liqueur, big time. Give it one spray real quick. Yeah, that's pretty much what you're getting straight out the get. Syrupy cherry, cinnamon, and some vanilla. The dry down, you get a whole lot more creaminess. Woody, creamy cherry vanilla. Woody, creamy cherry vanilla. I think there's sandalwood in this thing. I think it's what they're using. But man, 30 minutes into this thing, if you don't like synthetic openings and stuff like that, either Tom Ford is a bit harsh with this one. This is the most youthful, playful, most feminine. Girls, I'm sure, would love this thing. But it's the dry down of this thing, man. Like 30 minutes into this thing, it smells awesome. I can see some people getting great performance out of this thing because it's loud, spicy, and but me, I'm getting like, it's not bad. 2.5 hours of good projection. I'll get a good 3 to 3.5 hours of a scent bubble, and about 6 or 6.5 hours of overall longevity. Every single one of these fragrances is a cool weather fragrance. None of these are going to be good for the summer. I wouldn't want to be caught sweating in any of these. This is the one that would work best in the day. It's the most playful, it's the least serious, it's just it's bright, jolly little fragrance, you know. The rest of these, this one isn't so serious, it's just like kind of weird and stuff like that, but the other ones are a little bit more serious, a little more classy, but they are all for the cool weather, good for the evening, good for like a rainy day, stuff like that. They are all well done, quite close to the original. Like I said, I haven't smelled the original of this one, but based on the batting average of these ones and how close that they're coming, it's safe to say that this one is quite close to the original. I'm sure that one of you guys would be able to tell me, but from my experience, these are all very well done. You're smelling like luxury for a budget. Of course, they're not quite as good, but they cost 10% of that of the original, and yeah, they get the job done. And even if you have the original, you just don't want to, you love the scent profile, and you don't want to wear that to the store just because, you know, it's your special fragrance or something, but you love the way it smells, grab one of these things. In the air, people aren't going to know the difference. They're going to say, wow, whatever you're wearing is really good. This one is probably the one that's going to get the most compliments because it's that kind of a DNA, kind of like, like Sauvage. It has that real, that peppery citrus woody thing that pierces through and like kind of like draws your attention a little bit. That's what this has going on. So yeah, that's my final thoughts on the Milestone collection of the Tom Ford private line clones. With that, I'm out. Y'all be blessed, take care of yourself always, and until next time.